Where do you think, as far as Papua New Guinea is concerned, where it's a developing economy and where price is therefore a sensitivity, where do you feel that you're seeing the most opportunities right now for Australian companies?
I think what we're seeing is that, particularly in the last year or so, with slowdown in Australia, a lot of capability has been created around the mining sector, the oil and gas sector, and servicing those industries. It's such a natural thing to look at a market like PNG. So the opportunities that are flowing out of those sorts of projects, where in many cases premium is desired. They're not basing it around price, they're basing it around quality and the value add that that person or that company can deliver to the project. So we're seeing a lot of good Australian success stories coming out of those particular areas. There is also a lot of capability that's been built up around the areas that we've been talking about today and even yesterday: power, water, roads, bridges, ports, airports, transport infrastructure in particular, but also the utility side. Australia has got a lot of good capabilities. We may not always be price competitive in a direct comparison with some of the other competitors that are out there, but we work on the basis of quality and value for money.
So does that mean that there are some projects where, I mean, for example, in the last few years, Asian companies have come into Papua New Guinea and are doing business there as well, and Chinese particularly are doing a lot of building construction. It's, in a way, it's just to say we can't really compete in that area. Let them have that part of the market, or do you think there are opportunities to actually drive into some of those areas and be more competitive?
Once again, I think it comes down to the customer and what they're looking for. We've seen a number of examples where other nations have come in. You mentioned China. And the stories that have come out of the work that's been done aren't necessarily always positive ones. And it's a case of a judgment call has been made around price rather than quality. In most of these projects, what we're finding is that Australian and New Zealand standards are the ones that are usually applied to the projects. But unfortunately, I think resourcing-wise, there's a lack of ability necessarily to force compliance. So it's a regulatory thing in many cases, which means that Australia, if it is based around price, does tend to find it much more difficult to compete in those sorts of projects.
So there'll be companies in the room here that are maybe taking this opportunity to look at PNG as a market, who are coming here today, as well as lots of companies that are already doing business in PNG. For those people who are looking to get into PNG or maybe just taking the first early steps, what kind of advice are you giving them as far as how they should be coming into the country and presenting themselves in PNG?
Okay, I guess one really positive thing that I took out of this morning and the Minister's presentation, as you say, fairly hyped, if you want to put it on that word. He made reference to that song, Together We Can. One of the keys that we tend to be advising people about is finding the right partners. In a place like PNG, you don't just rush in and grab the first person you see and say, I want to work with you. It's about finding the right partners, and that's the type of advice that we provide. It's also about managing risks. So once again, don't just rush in. Take your time, come to the market, commit to the market, treat the market as a long-term exercise. Don't come for the quick wins and then disappear. You do that, you'll very rarely come back again and be successful. It's a long-term commitment. And companies that come up and say, well, things have slowed in Australia, I'd like to come in now and find those opportunities and just do some, get some quick jobs out of the process. We say to them, well, this probably isn't the market to do that in. All you're going to do is burn yourself. So it's the companies that are willing to commit, look at the market for the long term, and take the time to find the right partners, whether they be the end user or someone in between, and take the time to get to know those people, develop the trust, the commitment, the feeling that we have something that we can work together on, that's the companies that tend to succeed.